Now, we're also following elections around the country today. Voters are casting ballots in Alaska and Wyoming. Plus, California is holding a special House election to replace former Congressman Eric Swalwell. He resigned earlier this year. But most eyes will be on Florida and that state's new congressional map. Several candidates are working to secure the Republican nomination to replace outgoing Governor Ron DeSantis. The frontrunner is Congressman Byron Donalds, who has President Trump's endorsement. On the Democratic side of the gubernatorial race, voters are expected to nominate former Republican Congressman David Jolly. He's emerged as one of President Trump's most outspoken critics. And in Florida's high-stakes race for U.S. Senate, State Representative Angie Nixon and retired Lieutenant Colonel Alex Vindman are duking it out for the Democratic nomination. Now, one of them is expected to face off against Republican incumbent Ashley Moody. You see her here. She was appointed to fill Secretary of State Marco Rubio's Senate seat last year. Now, stay with us here because Alaska is also holding a nonpartisan primary for the upper chamber. The top contenders are Republican incumbent Dan Sullivan and former Democratic Congresswoman Mary Peltola. And in Wyoming, Trump-endorsed Congresswoman Harriet Hageman is expected to clinch the Republican nomination for U.S. Senate. Right now, that seat belongs to outgoing GOP Senator Cynthia Lemus, and it's highly unlikely a Democrat will flip it. CBS News political director Fin Gómez joins us from Washington to discuss what is the most important out of everything I've just run through. Fin, good morning to you. Let's start with Florida. That's a lot of key races, key things happening there. What are you watching for specifically?
Yeah, Errol, good morning and happy Election Day. We've been bringing you these Tuesday election days for the entire summer. And now, we're getting closer and closer to that big November midterm election, which is just under 80 days away. But let's start with the governor's race in Florida, where we could be headed for a key general election matchup between the Trump-backed Republican Congressman Byron Donalds. He's a close ally of President Trump, and David Jolly, who you mentioned there, a former Republican congressman who is now a Democrat. And as you mentioned, a very loud and outspoken critic of President Trump. In the Senate primary, many Democrats that I spoke to in Florida believe Alex Vindman is capable of an upset against Republican Senator Ashley Moody this fall. Though remember, a Democrat hasn't won a Senate race since 2012, so it's been a minute. And then, of course, there's that big pileup in the newly redrawn 20th district. Now, this district was redrawn by Governor DeSantis and his Republican allies. In this race, 5 Democrats, including former DNC chair Debbie Wasserman Schultz, Sheila Shefferlis McCormick, and rapper Luther Campbell, are competing in a majority black district that should remain Democratic in November. It's a very highly Democratic area. Wasserman Schultz has also faced some criticism from some of her black opponents who accuse her of district shopping and potentially, they say, diluting a black representation in this majority black district. So we're watching those races and many more today, Errol.
And there's really one peculiarity I'm wondering if you've ever seen before out in Alaska. You've got the inclusion of 2 Dan Sullivans on the ballot. How might that affect the turnout for whichever one voters really want?
I'm going to go way back here, Errol, for a second. And there was a similar incident. There's been others, but there's one when John F. Kennedy ran for president. There was someone with his opponent had 2 names that were similar, and it caused a lot of confusion. So it's kind of like this. This is like at least what some critics are alleging. These 2 Sullivans could create some voter confusion in Alaska, even though their middle initials are different and other information detailed there distinguishes them on the ballot. The incumbent's campaign has accused the other Dan Sullivan of entering into the race to siphon away votes, and an allegation that Senator Sullivan the opponent of Sullivan denies. But because this is a top 4 primary, Senator Sullivan and Mary Peltola are both expected to advance here, Errol. For Peltola, I think one of the biggest questions may be there's been a lot of campaign turbulence in her campaign in recent days. Her longtime longtime advisor departed, and that happened just before today. And it's following a kerfuffle with her campaign when her campaign rejected an unsolicited fundraising appeal from Kamala Harris's PAC, in reasserting its Alaska First independent message. Some top Democrats tell me they're furious at the Harris campaign, or Harris camp, for placing Pentola in the situation. So it's getting a little bit dramatic here as we've reached Election Day today in Alaska. Errol.
Yeah, so much on the line for both parties. Fin Gómez, across all of it, thank you very much.